involved. It was reported by journalists and bloggers alike that polling places all over the Mid-South are reporting early voting problems, and now people are asking, should I even bother to vote early? During the early voting period for the August 2nd election, I cast my vote not knowing that I was one of 3,000 voters who received incorrect ballots. My husband, Dr. Kenneth T. Whalum, Jr., candidate for Unified School Board District 4, was also given an incorrect ballot. As many of you know, Dr. Whalum finished second with approximately 88 votes less than his opponent, 6,385 to 6,473. However, being the man that he is, one of integrity, he accepted the outcome and stated publicly on radio and television that he would not ask for a recount. I agreed with him, but later, the next day, my mind was changed. I told him he needed to ask for a recount. Though this was a small district race, and even though the boundaries were redrawn, taking him out of his base of supporters in Orange Mound, where he grew up, the votes were just too close not to ask for a recount, considering he had enjoyed over 80,000 votes the last two school board races citywide, and considering the fact that we were given incorrect ballots. For these reasons, I am asking my husband, Dr. Whalum, to reconsider and ask for a recount of District 4. This recount should also include the 3,000 ballots that had incorrect information. After a recount, if it turns out that the vote totals are indeed correct, or that his opponent won by an even greater number, then congratulations again to the District 4 Unified School Board winner. I just want to once again have faith in the election process in Memphis, Tennessee, knowing that my vote counted. Now I will turn it over to my husband, Dr. Kenneth T. Whalum, Jr., Commissioner.
Amen. If the question is, do you, Kenneth Whalum, Jr., take Shelia Whalum's advice to ask for a recount, the answer is the same as it was 30 years ago. I do. It's just, there are too many mistakes. There is too much of a confluence of questionable circumstance not to at least ask for a recount. I have a constitutional right to ask for one, and I fully intend to do so. Now, it's interesting that Richard Holden with the Election Commission says that I'm going to have to prove fraud in order to get a recount. Well, I'm not a lawyer in practice, but I am one by training. And the definition of fraud is an intentional misrepresentation of material existing fact made by one person to another with knowledge of its falsity and for the purpose of inducing the other person to act, and upon which the other person relies with resulting injury or damage. Fraud may also be made by an omission or purposeful failure to state material facts, which non-disclosure makes other statements misleading. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a perfect storm of questionable statements made on the record by election commissioners. Not me. Election commissioners who say, well, I really don't know if we got it straight yet. Oh man, please. Now, here's what ultimately decided it for me. Shelia woke me up early Saturday morning and said that she couldn't sleep, that she was awakened in her spirit at 1:06 in the morning, telling her to tell me to ask for a recount. Then I opened the newspaper Saturday morning and read this beautiful article by Jane. It's a great article. It talks about Stand for Children looks to widen their influence. And then it talks about $200,000 coming from a single out-of-state source to focus on my race. Then you combine that with election commissioners who publicly state that they're not quite sure what's going on. Well, if I have to prove in court that there's fraud, I look forward to the opportunity to do so, because guess what happens? the emails that are sent by Stand for Children, the emails that are sent by election commissioners, the emails that are sent by TPC members who are also members of Stand for Children, they all become matter of public record, and they're discoverable evidence in the court of law. Oh, I look forward to this. Oh, you know, the membership list of Stand for Children becomes a matter of discoverable evidence. Who on the Stand for Children membership list is also on the TPC board? Who in the Election Commission office is also a member of Stand for Children? I don't know. We're going to find out. Ultimately, y'all, here's what I got to find out. If our children are for sale, I need to know exactly how many votes they're worth.
Yeah.
This is my baby. This is my brand. Marriage. Ultimately, the story is a story of marriage. People say, well, how can he let his wife determine what he's going to do? This right here is a public indication of us being one.
That's right.
I'm not the typical preacher, in case you don't know. I'm not the typical politician, in case you don't know. No matter how many of them don't wear their wedding bands, you don't know who their wives are.
All right.
I ain't that dude. So I'm just going to stand on my constitutional rights and ask for a recount. Let's count them. Let's see. I might have lost by 8,888 votes. But let's see. How many votes are our children worth?
Is that where you go?
And I'm going to turn it over to Sheila and let her answer questions, and then I'll answer questions.
So is your next step from here to actually file the lawsuit?
Absolutely. That's what we need to do. We'll do whatever we need to do. And again, he's lost before. It's really not that big of a deal, but just because there have been so many problems, we want to make sure.
That's right.
I want to make sure. He's been running for office for years, since we've been married. He's lost, he's won, but it's never been like this. It's never been where so many people have called us, so many of his supporters are stunned. Everybody's stunned that he lost. I was stunned that he lost. And so we just want to be clear and be sure. We've even had children to cry, believe it or not. You know, so this is a big shake-up, personally. But again, it is what it is. If it comes to the fact that he lost, okay, we move on. You still have a year, you know.
How quickly do you move forward with that lawsuit?
Well, it depends on what the response is to our request for a recount. We don't have to do anything right now other than ask for the recount. The law requires that I ask for a recount. It's up to the Election Commission to respond, and then we'll know what else we need to do next. I'm just, as I said, it's a confluence of events. It's a perfect storm. I'm not the one to be trifled with. I'm just not the one. There are emails from Stand for Children leadership directing all of their members pour every resource you have into the District 4 race. Well, that email is going to be a matter of public record. We can ask people about that email. Well, just what did you mean by that, sir? And just who got this email, sir? And if a single person on that email distribution list is employed by the Election Commission, there's a question.
That's right.
Do you know what the commission's deadline is to respond?
I don't know, and I don't care. You know, I'll be on the school board for another year. See that? My opponents tend to underestimate who I am.
That's right.
I was elected by 80,000 plus voters in the city of Memphis to represent them on the school board, and I will do that until September 2013. I guess they got their years mixed up. I ain't leaving this year. So while I'm there, let's count.
Was it a sleepless night Thursday night after the election?
Absolutely. After the election that Thursday, we went home and talked about it, went to bed. Friday, it was kind of slow, you know, but then later in the midnight hour, I started thinking, and God started putting things in my spirit, and it just wasn't adding up to me. And I just had to do this for my husband. It doesn't matter about anybody else. I had to do it for him, to let him know he's done a great work for the people of Memphis, for the children of Memphis, and I just didn't want that to die. And I know for a fact, I don't know Kevin Lewis personally. He's a nice guy, but he was running as if his life depended on it. So someone's controlling him. And if they're controlling him and controlling the others, then, you know, what's that going to say about our children? You know, they're being controlled. They need the voice of Dr. Whalen. The city of Memphis needs his voice. And, you know, even though this has happened, we're going to do what we can do.
Hey, Dr. Wade, now when you said you weren't going to run, was it like frustration and disappointment that night? Or?
No, man, that was the fact. When I said to Commercial Appeal, to Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 24, Channel 30, Channel 13, When I said I'm not that dude, I meant that. I'm not that dude. But apparently my wife is that dude.
Yeah, honestly, it was me. It was me. Yeah.
Is the extent of the investigation to ask for emails, or what
Say it
else?
again.
The extent of the investigation, is it to ask for emails?
Well, again, if, as Mr. Holden says, the burden is on me to prove fraud, that's really weird, because they also said the burden was on the voters to prove that the doggone ballots were correct. Wow. But if the burden is mine, and if I have to prove it in the court of law, and if a lawsuit is filed, then every email, every communication becomes a matter of legal public record. And everybody who made a statement is subject to examination and cross-examination. Y'all, I'm not stupid, y'all are not stupid, okay? Anytime you got $200,000 being given from out of state to affect one race, a local school, not a congressional race, not a gubernatorial race, a local, not even an at-large school board race, a geographical district race. $200,000. Man.
What do you think the ultimate desire was for people? Why would anyone put that much money in? Do you have any indication?
That's one of the questions that'll be answered when we see these emails and see who else responded to the emails. And all I know is I saw one of the emails I wasn't supposed to see from Stanford Children that told their members, whatever you do,
That's right.
District 4 race is the focus. I don't know why. Could it? Oh, let them by. Let our jury commissioners by. Give them room, y'all. Any more questions?
Do you have any idea who the donor was?
No, the question was, do I have any idea who the donor of the $200,000 was? No, but I do know that Stanford Children receives a lot of money from the Bill Gates Foundation. Did I say Bill Gates? But I don't know who the donor was. It does say it was a single source. So it'd have to be somebody with $200,000 laying around. Now, Jane's great article also says that they raised $30,000 locally. Who locally would have $30,000 laying around? Is there a connection between the $30,000, the $200,000, the TPC, and Stanford Children? I don't know. But guess what? We're going to find out. Any more questions?
If somebody on the TPC gave the money, how is that a conflict?
Well, good question. If somebody on the TPC gave the money to run against me, how is it a conflict? Well, it's only a potential conflict if the person who benefited from the money votes the way the donor of the money says to vote. I don't know the answer to that.
So are you going to be monitoring the votes?
No, but I have a feeling you all will be. And if you don't,
That's right.
you're not doing your job.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Whoever doesn't like me personally,
That's right.
you have a job to do, a responsibility to the voters and the children and members. And if you don't do it, if you don't know, now you know. Thank y'all. Thank you for
Thank you
spending.
so much.